I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, January the 30th, where the market seems to be settling down a little bit. It was nice that we made it through a cattle on feed report without a knee-jerk reaction, and like we thought, it may have been a little bit bearish, but it wasn't enough to hurt anything. And the sharply higher fat cattle trade that we had on Friday last week, after the cattle on feed report come out, where fat sold $4 higher, that was more significant by far than any bearishness that the cattle on feed report had. But you look at the board on Monday's close, April live cattle up 37 cents to end the day at 125, and it looked like your majorly traded contracts on both fats and feeders were just looking at a round place to stop, and April live cattle stopped at 125 even. Your February spot live cattle was up $1.10 at 125.70. Now your feeder cattle, March feeders, most traded by far, was up 27 cents and ended at a round number of 147. April up 7 cents at 147.30. Your weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade on a huge volume, 118,400 head of negotiated sales in the 5-area feeding region, which is gigantic. That's the biggest by far we've had for quite some time. We've been selling right in there in the 80s and 90s, but that goes to show you that the packers wanted to get some cattle put together, and they're tired of working hand to mouth. They needed to get some volume put together, and they're probably trying to get set up where they have a lot of volume to get through the tight supplies of market ready cattle coming out of the feedlots here for the next several weeks. And then they'll set that up where they've got plenty of cattle, and then they'll get more current on their purchases whenever it gets to a point where we have a lot of cattle showing up on the show list. And there's a lot of cattle in the feedlot, and you get in here late in the winter, early in the spring, and we're going to start to see where we've got more cattle showing up on the show list than likely they can choke. But we've had pretty heavy slaughter here for the last year or two, and been able to sell the meat, so hopefully we can work through that the best we can. But right now is the time to make hay while we've got short market ready supplies. The weighted average on live steers for last week's trade was 126.46, up $3.57. Your dressed steers averaged 199.74 in the 5 areas, up $4.85. But you look at down the line, and that's really what your board is for, to look down the line, not so much on your current sales. But your live cattle getting into spring and summer are all going down. Like I said, everybody knows we've got a lot of cattle on feed, and a lot of them will be showing up then. And like always, when we get into the warmer months and we start thinking about green grass and things, and tighter supplies of those kind of cattle to turn out there, because we just don't have enough fall calves in the industry, and anybody that has the ability should be fall calving at least a portion of the herd. But your feeder cattle going down the line into the warmer months is going to continue to get a little bit higher until late summer, where it's always at about its best price there late in the summer. But heading out to the NCBA convention in Phoenix here on Tuesday. If you guys come to the trade show that's being held there, be sure and come by the Merck Animal Health booth. I'll be there, and we're going to have the National Beef Wire on display, and be sure and stop and say hi if you come through there. But talk about your feeder sales. Real-time index on Beef Market Central ended the day on Monday at 146.42. That was down just 21 cents. And like I said, we're starting to just kind of moderate out a little bit here, and a lot of markets are showing steady to something, which is a good thing to see, rather than $8 or $10 higher and then $8 or $10 lower. But you look at your big high volume markets, Oklahoma City, 8,000 head. You look at their steers, and it was kind of a tale of what's going on. Your steers under $7.50 selling $1 to $4 higher, and even your 6-weight steers selling higher there, but they're not going to put those 6-weight steers in the feedlot. It's getting to be more of a trend in the Osage and the Flint Hills to turn a big stocker steer out there and try to make him weigh 1,000, because they just know that they'll feed so well and they can make them really big. If they get them coming off grass weighing that heavy, they can take them 1,500–1,600 pounds, no problem. And you're seeing a lot bigger of a stalker steer being turned out in those major grazing areas early in the spring, and then they'll come off the double stock pastures in the middle of the summer weighing really heavy, yielding a pretty good price, and that's the way guys like to make it work. The days of turning, you know, 350 to 500 pound steers out on that grass, you still see guys do it, but they can't make as good a use of it as those bigger stalker type steers can. But your heavier weight feeder steers weighing over 750 were steady to $3 lower. We can no longer make the April for a hedge, so there's not even any reason trying. Even if you get a great big heavy feeder to put on, you still can't hedge them for the April board. You got to go off into June and of course get that big break that you see on the board from April to June. But feeder heifers there sold $2 to $6 higher, and there's no reason why the heifers are worth more. You just had a heifer buyer in there, and that's what causes that from time to time. Your calves are $1 to $4 higher. Joplin had a big sale, 9,300 head, feeder steers and heifers selling steady to $3 higher. Most of your middleweight calves were steady, and your peewee steer and heifer calves were $2 to $5 lower because they were selling awful well last week. But let's look at some quotes that we saw on Monday. I talked about your high volume sales. Here's a sale that's not real high volume, but at times they can get some strings in there and sell them as well as anybody. But my new friend Toby Myers there at the Sylvan Sales Commission at Sylvan Grove, Kansas, had a big sale on Monday. Sold us big long string of red baldy cattle. They were all red and black baldies for the most part, but they had solid colored bodies of both dark and red and black, and that doesn't hurt them a bit. But 128 head of Caffey type steers weighing 814 pounds at $145. Look out western Nebraska, Tri-State Livestock, McCook, Nebraska at 6:30 in the evening on Monday had a load of 603 pound steers, bring 177. And I'm going to go back to Saturday and pick up a market that we broadcasted here on DV Auction for several years here. We've been having a little trouble getting their clerical system to work, but we got the bugs all out of it now, and going to be reporting in a lot of strings coming out of Fort Scott, Kansas on a Saturday sale that you don't see a lot of times. But in Fort Scott on Saturday at 3:30 in the afternoon, they had 68 head of steers weighed 775 at $151. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.